And why that goes live. It's live. Welcome to You Be the Judge. I am Dr. Paul Dyer, the co-host, Marylin, Pierre, attorney at law. And we just found our new favorite friend and Judge Claudia Barbara. I think we should just keep her. What do you think, Marylin? I
I,
think we should just keep her every
I,
Wednesday.
mhm.
I know we've been talking about these bills and things like that, and it's very prominent, but we can keep her.
I think we should keep her and clone her and then clone the clones of her.
See, I'm not the only one, and I'm a science mind, so we can go right into the cloning process right away. I,
You
I
all are too kind. You're too kind.
well, here's the thing, Judge Barbara and Marilyn, and we haven't even talked about this. When you have a jewel in the world and it's in your house, you show it so it can shine, so everyone can see. And if this is You Be the Judge is our house, then and you the jewel, then we should just have you shine.
Yes, I agree.
I mean, that's just it's and the reason for that is because we would talk about, there's a lot of bills that's coming up, and I think people don't understand the bills, legislative, and all the ongoings we need to understand as electeds, right? And that's where we're missing as a community of people. We're missing as a community of Black people. We're missing as a nation of human beings. We are missing the understanding of how powerful the vote is and why we need to keep looking. Now, the tiring part is, Judge Barbara, is I work all day. I have 1,000 kids. My wife hates me. The dog needs to be fed. The car needs gas. The lawn needs mowing. And I'm supposed to pay attention to these other things. That's tough for them.
No, it's not. You've got a trust fund. You're independently wealthy. I see you at your yacht. Aren't you going to Cancun tomorrow? Isn't that what you do all day? Travel the world? You're
I
a
wish.
globetrotter?
But that's what people are saying. They don't understand how they can keep up all this and their lives. How are they supposed to keep track of all this?
Well, so for many, the legislature is almost non-existent. I mean, yeah, they get everybody gets their information just based on what the news has shared with them or conveyed to them. And that's it. That's the extent of it. It's not like, people dig deeper and, they have, general or intimate knowledge of how the legislative process works and how things become law and how amendments are made. We're getting a piece of it because right now in this legislative session, we have undertaken the police reform bills.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that's been just being conveyed to us and even the amendments. And then you have Anton's law. And so, that tends to be out there as well. They made this amendment to it, and they made that one, and personnel files are going to be public now, except the unsubstantiated ones, and so on and so forth. And you get this real information, that the Senate version of the bill, even though it may have passed, you still have the House version of the bill, and they're not going anywhere unless they all sing on and they're on the same page. So, but in past years, I couldn't tell you, half the bills that were coming out of the legislator.
Well, hold on, Judge Barbara.
Legislative
I'm the
decades.
weirdo that used to read the congressional record.
Ah,
I literally would read the bill number, and then this is before the internet. They didn't have the full bill. You get the congressional record, you click on the bill, then you click on the subsections, and then the subsections, and I would be going, okay, hold on. So the bill starts out like this, and it ends up with all this other stuff about shoelaces and cats and the district of something. I'm like, why is that even in this bill when it has something to do with legal this or crime this, and they're talking about so much other stuff. And this has been going on for history. This is not new. They just throw stuff in.
Well, the same way they throw things in, I would like to see some more aggressive legislation that holds people accountable for discrimination. I haven't seen it. I mean, just to basically have the EEOC, which is kind of a civil administrative function, it's not a problem solving issue. It's not a problem solving situation. Yeah, they do spend energy resolving cases and sending cases through ADR, but there are instances in which people look to the EEOC and their cases are dismissed and they don't go any further. And it doesn't mean that nothing went wrong in that situation or in that incident. And that's, it is heartening because the process is not working for people.
No.
If they feel like well, EEO let me down, then I might as well give up the fight myself. And if you do give up the fight, that means that the company got by with whatever they did that was discriminatory in nature, not a promotion, and so on and so forth. And, I'm not convinced that we have a judicial system that is trustworthy to handle matters that are important to us like this. Because at the end of the day, if you have a non-caring judge that gets the case and just frivolously toss discrimination cases, that they don't belong on the bench. I'll just flat out say that.
I remember this so vividly when Clarence Thomas was going through his
confirmation
hearing, which was more of a joke. It was such a joke. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you why. And I've been a Mason Shriner for over 30 years. And I also know that Clarence Thomas is a member. And I also remembered Senator Cole, who was heading the proceedings, is also a member of a certain house. And he had said, and he had thrown a membership sign while sitting in that seat saying, this is not going to go that far. This is what Clarence Thomas said. And Senator Cole said, this is not the time or the place, and it will be handled within the House. And I was just like, me and my buddies were like, there it is. There it is. Because there are secret rooms in societies, whether you can call it whispers, best friends, all of it, things are being taken care of, not in the light, but in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the backroom deals.
Right. And we as citizens, really, if we even know what's going on, it's hard for us to say we have a chance when we don't have a chance.
Now you're really speaking to the dysfunctions in the judicial system, because a lot of litigants feel that this case has been decided before I even say anything.
Right.
And that's a huge problem for for a litigant to go through the system and say, that case was decided before I even got there.
And this is not the Jim Crow South. We're talking, this is modern day age, and we're still feeling like we're waiting for the police car to, leave out from the station as soon as we pull away, and here comes the lynch mob. This is the modern day lynch mob.
Yeah. And so we're concerned. Listen, we're concerned about who the judge is on the Derek Chauvin case. And if that person, and we're going to be watching every single ruling, every single, jury instruction, every single decision that that judge makes in the case because we're concerned that we want a fair trial
Mm-hmm.
and an impartial trial. And if there's any discretion, that, you know, it not be one that is giving anybody an unfair advantage. That's the whole point. And we have to be cognizant about of the fact that you have people on the bench that have that integrity, that have that fairness, that has that, oh no, I'm going to go to the nth degree to make sure this trial is fair and not uneven, underhanded in any way. Because, you know, at the end of the day, just like you saw in the Trayvon Martin case,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you can make up stuff that happened because the decedent is dead. He's not here to challenge your version of the story,
Correct.
you know? So, you know, if someone testifies and say, you know, it went this way and make up this whole story of self-defense.
Have
See,
you and Marylin ever defended someone that was already deceased?
no.
Are you talking about probate cases?
No, like a dead person, like a Trayvon Martin who was dead, and you're trying to like that type of trial, that type of case.
Oh, you mean a
Sort
personal
of this
injury
criminal
case?
defense
You mean
attorneys.
Yes, it's criminal defense attorney, but your client is technically dead. I mean, but you're still
No, not our client. Our client would be dead if we were criminal defense attorneys.
okay.
Right.
So how do you defend that type? I mean, what is that called? What's that type of case called?
Well, first of all, if you're talking about a Trayvon Martin case,
Right.
you know, the deceased is technically the victim, and the case is brought by the state attorney or the
Okay.
prosecutor, and or the district attorney, as it's called in whatever jurisdiction you're in. And you know, the defendant, who in the Trayvon Martin case was George Zimmerman,
Right.
he's
Right.
the one that is being defended, you know, that's seeking an acquittal.
And also in a civil case, that's in a criminal case, but in a civil case, you don't represent the decedent. You might represent the decedent's estate, or you might represent a family member who's bringing a case on behalf of the decedent.
And those are hard cases to.
Oh, it depends on the facts.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and to give you a better example, I think of what Judge Barber was talking about. You remember Jeff Epstein?
Yeah.
Mhm.
He was in jail, and once he died, the criminal case against him just went away because there's nobody to try. But other people could bring, let's say that there's a victim out, there's somebody who feels like he or she has been victimized, then he or she could bring an action against his estate.
Right. And so technically, you could be the attorney for the estate, and you would be representing the personal representative
Exactly
of the estate.
And I think Will wants to put his own 2 cents in
right.
there.
Some years ago, they were criminally prosecuting a guy from Enron, the treasurer or somebody.
I remember.
And there was a big fine to be levied against this guy, and the guy had the nerve to die. And
Right.
the Supreme Court says that's the end. See, so the government never got its how many millions of dollars in fines.
Natural causes or not, you know. And
Right.
so
And like when Judge Kavanagh, when he was going through his confirmation hearing, and the things they brought up, like the high school drinking incident, him with the girl, one of my closest friend was just right after they had brought that up. One of my closest friend calls me up and says, "We will never be a judge." Because if you're bringing up stuff in high school in 11th grade, I'm going to tell you flat out, I don't remember. And it could have happened, but I'm not going to remember.
But I think it was the nature of the incident that was the issue.
Yeah, but
I mean, he said that he liked to drink and he was drinking a lot, but I thought it was the nature of the incident. I myself thought that when he brought the calendar
Yeah.
in to show that he was not there, I was
Right.
looking at it going, that calendar does not do you any service. Did you see how many times he was grounded or something like that? I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, it's like he spent his whole life grounded.
So
See, that trial, I think, was overwhelmingly personal.
yes,
And
that's all it was.
Whew.
Yeah, and it also goes towards, well, if you think that it's okay for someone to do something like that, how are you going to treat a victim that has happened to? Think about the judge in California with the Stanford University graduate student who was raped by the Stanford University. What was he? He was on the swim team.
Player.
Or something?
May have been a lacrosse player.
Oh yes, a lacrosse player. Exactly.
No, that's Duke. Duke was lacrosse.
Right, you're right. But I thought that
Oh.
the California case involved a player too. I thought it was lacrosse, but I could be wrong on that. I know exactly the case you're speaking of, though.
Yeah, well, the issue in that case was that the judge just did not give the victim I guess the understanding that a victim in a case like that should have. And you could tell because his comment was, well, I don't want to ruin his life. And so she's standing there going, but my life has already been ruined. And I forgot her name, I forgot her book. I'm so sorry about that, because I read her victim statement, and that was just so very compelling. And I think that she went and wrote that statement with the idea that this judge just does not see me as a victim. He instead sees the defendant as a victim.
Well, see, that's a real issue when you have jurists on the bench who think that way.
Right.
Because they're putting more value on a white male's life than they are on the real victim. And that's a concern.
So when you attorneys pick jurors, does the system pick up some responsibility of the type of juror that's on trial? Because we want second chance citizen people to get their citizenship back. They're actually holding stuff right now in Maryland that they are not allowing them to get their voting right, or no, their jury rights back. They're trying to keep them off of being a juror, even after they have served their time, done their time for whatever crime it is, that they're not allowed to be on the jury.
Okay, so I'm glad you said something about jury, because I'm ready to unleash probably a very explosive topic when it comes to juries.
Okay.
Ready.
I hope you're ready. Okay, so I'll preface this by saying that in my entire life, I've lived in Maryland, and I've had my parents lived in Maryland since 1957, 58. And I've lived in Maryland since 1959. My sisters lived in Maryland since 1957. Not any of us have ever served on a federal jury in the state of Maryland. Okay, see, there's something
wrong.
Well, let's ask Will. Will, have you even been asked? I've never been asked. I've been asked for a county, but not federal.
Yeah, I've on a county jury, yes, but not on a federal jury. See, there is something very strange going on.
There's something. Well, let's ask Will. Have you been asked, Will?
Not federal, not county, not anybody.
Not county even. Wow.
Wow. Now that's
and you've been on the voters roll. Yeah, you've been on the voters roll
since 1967 or 66.
Wow. What about you, Mithun? Have you been asked to serve on any jury?
Oh,
I'm just getting unmuted. Okay, thank you very much. Actually, it is a surprise. Several years back, between 2013 and 2018, when I was on my green card, I was being asked to serve in a jury. And then because I was not a citizen, I should not be in the jury. So I have to scan my green card and send it to the court. I don't remember, was it in circuit or this circuit? I believe circuit or
Circuit.
yeah. So I had to scan and send it, and I said, please excuse me, I'm not a U.S. citizen yet.
That's interesting.
Okay, so
they
was this
selected-
federal or state court?
I think it was most likely state court. Most likely, I don't remember exactly. So many years back, it was.
It was in Rockville.
I think it may be Montgomery County.
Yeah. So that's state court because the federal court, the closest one, is in
Greenbelt
County.
Well, here's the thing: that there's a theory out there where the federal courts are picking up jury pools in Western Maryland, not in this area at all, if any.
Interesting.
And so that's why you get juries that are often from the Western Maryland corridor, and nobody's saying anything about it.
Well, no one's, that type of data will never get picked up because no one really thinks about it.
No, and come to think of it, I'm going to ask now from now on because I've never heard of anybody serving on the federal jury in Maryland.
And especially in Baltimore City.
Yeah,
because my parents lived in Baltimore for a very, very, very long time. And to that extent, the fact that they would be, they're not living right now, but to that extent, to be registered voters and never be called for a federal jury trial is something is very, very off with that.
Do you think it's because you were attorneys, both of you are attorneys? I mean, does that kind of exclude you forever?
No, it doesn't.
No?
Well,
it doesn't.
I guess we've got 3 lawyers here, and that might exclude. That doesn't exclude us because we still have to show up anyway.
We have to show up, and we have to be struck from the jury.
Exactly.
For cause or a peremptory challenge. So we're still going to be pulled into the pool. So I'm talking about the pool. I'm not talking about, serving on the jury being picked.
You've never been asked to come to the pool.
Right.
Exactly.
Come to the pool.
And I'm curious to go back to Will again because you live in because Will's a lawyer as well. So I want to know how many people do you know who've been asked to serve on a federal jury in Maryland? If any. I don't know any, come to think of it. I'm going to ask more questions from now on.
I'm asking, yeah.
I think one of my former wives was asked once.
Wow. And do you know what her experience was?
My recollection is, the one who's probably dead now, my recollection is that it was not a federal jury. It was a Montgomery County jury.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I've been called in Montgomery County twice, and my husband has been called once. They did not choose. Well, I didn't even have to go up to the room because they settled both times. And with my husband, he was called, but when he said that his wife was a lawyer, they dismissed him for cause. They've kicked him out of rooms before because of me. So
somebody needs to get to the root of the problem because there's something there that is excluding residents from wherever we're from serving on federal juries, and I don't know what it is. Somebody knows.
So
somebody knows the system. Somebody knows how those jury cards are going out.
May I be heard for a minute? Do we regard Jamie Raskin as a friendly?
Yes.
Okay. The simplest thing is write Jamie Raskin a letter and say we don't many of the people who have lived in Montgomery County for years and years and years, never been asked to serve in a federal jury. We would like to know more about this process of selection for federal juries.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So,
Yeah.
and Jamie's, I regard him as a friendly.
Yeah, I think so too.
Now, I've asked both of my senators,
Mm.
specifically Senator Ben Cardin and Senator Chris Van Hollen,
Mhm.
and I have not gotten any real substantive answer.
Can we get Carton out?
I think
Is that going to be a
Jamie's
hard one?
better. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
No.
I think Jamie's a better person to ask because Jamie's a constitutional lawyer. Cardin and Van Hollen, they're not lawyers, and so it might be like, so what? But I think Jamie, being a lawyer, he would recognize that. Wait a second, I don't think I've ever met anybody who's served on a federal jury, and why not?
Why not?
Well, federal jury in Maryland, and why not?
I have
They,
just two.
they should be summoned to congressional hearings. A congressional inquiry should be done on this issue.
Mhm.
Now, what are you doing? Because these are where EEO cases go. These are
Right.
where federal police misconduct cases
Correct.
go.
Right.
So you shouldn't be, cherry picking
Mhm.
jury pools.
But
Which
they
is really
are.
what it looks like.
If they're cherry picking jury pools, cherry picking judges, where is there the presumption of fairness? There
Well,
is. I mean,
now they do have some control over the concept of federal judges, because federal judges, they get, most of the time, not all of the time, but a majority of the times, their cases are assigned by wheels. So there is no presumption of cherry picking all that's going on.
well, they say you
repetitively.
can rig the wheel in roulette in a casino, so I'm sure they can rig this wheel too. It's just
Maybe
like voting
so.
booths. All of a sudden, in black neighborhoods, voting machines always get broke.
Ah,
I just have to say something, if I may allow to.
Oh yes,
Okay.
go ahead, Mithu.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Actually, I was under impression that in order for you to be even called for jury duty, you have to be U.S. citizen. And once I send them my green card at that time, I'm right now U.S. citizen.
Mhm.
At that time, I was not. So, and I was being excused from that. So I don't know how I got in that list when I was not citizen, number one. And number two, in the federal court, I think it's more, I have seen you get more fair hearing, my experience, than any state court. And I'm not sure whether it's a state court, you need to be a citizen. A federal, of course, you have to be a citizen in Missouri. And now another thing I shared some video with Miss Marylin last week. And I wanted to know, what can people do for any police misconduct? Now, what I have requested the Senator Van Hollen's office, because when I saw a police misconduct happen for Mr. Foyt case, he shared the video and he said that's wrong. So I wanted to share my video with the Senator Van Hollen's office, and he's my senator. I belong to his constituency, and they don't want to even see the video of police assaulting me. And I was so disappointed. I said, isn't that the job of the Senate? They said they cannot help me. I said, I'm not asking for help. I'm just asking that the Montgomery County Police came to my house, assaulted me, and Department of Internal Affairs did their investigation, and then they found the police officer at fault. And they didn't have any legal rights to come inside my house because it was a landlord-tenant dispute where we already had a judge's order for eviction, and the sheriff came and posted the notes of eviction, and the tenant wants to come in. And it happened the previous night that I called the police. We gave the judge's order. The police saw everything and said, we cannot help you anyway. You have to go to the judge or go to the sheriff to find out the legality and all. The next afternoon, he called the police again. And I told them to give him no trespassing warning so he doesn't come back again. The police said we gave him the warning on our body camera recording, so it's good. But next afternoon, the police came, and there were two white gentlemen as a police officer. they started with the sentence like, what the hell is name? I like, somebody's coming to my house and calling me that. And the video is there with Miss Marylin. I shared that. And they thought that I was stealing. They wanted to go inside. I said, sir, I cannot let you in because sheriff told me not to let the tenant go back. Because if I let the tenant go back, I have to go through the eviction again. They told me very clearly. And I followed all the rules, and police were called yesterday night, and police told him not to come back. And he has to go to the district court judge to see whether this was been illegal eviction or on the sheriff. We cannot do anything. This is a civil matter. The police said, now they are under impression that I'm doing some stealing essence. So they want to see my ID when I'm inside my own house. And I wanted to just close the door and I say, sir, you're trespassing my property. Please leave my property. If you want to do any search or anything, get a warrant. I'll be happy to comply.
So,
And
so hold on, Mitch. Marylin, how does he handle that?
Well, it's probably something that needs to be discussed offline because there's so many different variables. Yeah, but I was looking up how you become a juror while since we were having that discussion, and it says in Maryland you get to be on the jury pool either because you are a registered voter or because you are, well, your information is in the it's in the motor vehicle administration list. So basically, I could see how that mistake could happen with Mithun because maybe they pulled your name out from the motor vehicle administration list instead of the voter registration list, because to be eligible for jury duty, you have to be 18, a US citizen, a Maryland resident, and be able to read, write, and understand the English language.
No, you're absolutely correct. And that is the reason, because when you are not a citizen, you cannot claim that you are a citizen. That's why I have to immediately told them, I said, I understand. Yes. And it was actually, I requested for a recusal. They gave me one. Then after that, they called me. They said, you have to come. And it was, if I don't show up, I think it's a contempt of court or something, or court order or something like that. And I like say, I cannot be a jury because this is the reason. Then they said they wanted to see the copy of my green card. And then I have to mail that to them and send it to them. I said, hey, this is my copy of my green card. So I cannot be a jury because I'm not a citizen. So I'm just giving you that disclosure. So if you still want to force me to come, I will come, but this is against the law to my understanding. So, and if possible, I would like, Miss Marylin, I asked if anybody can help me on that as an offline discussion, and if I can get any contact information from the honorable judge and the other attorneys here about my case. I wanted to pursue that. If I can request that, I would highly appreciate it.
So here's a soft question, I guess, and not so much specific, but if a police officer comes to your house and they want to talk with you and you don't want to talk with them, what is some of the courses that a civilian can do? That's the question.
Thank you, sir. That's a great question.
You're on mute, Judge Barber. Okay.
Yes. You know, I saw this very similar situation unfold itself and on Facebook in a viral episode. And I believe that the cops got it wrong and they knew they got it wrong. And that is when you are confronted with a situation where a police knocks on your door, then the standard is that you usually can give permission or not give permission for the police to enter your premises, you know, unless they have a warrant. You know, now warrant is a very different situation.
Right, correct.
But if there's no warrant there, you know, your no is a no.
But is it really a no? I mean, is it like, I said no, but I get dragged out anyway? And
that's what I saw on, I did see that scenario.
Right, so
that is exactly happened to me.
In a viral video.
So
that is exactly happened to exactly happened to me.
Actually, they try to drag me inside my house and I wanted to close the door, and they put their feet on my door, on my inside my house, and they were not letting me close the door. And I said, sir, you are trespassing, please leave. You have a warrant, please come back. If you want to file charges, please file charges. And I'm happy to cooperate with you. But I don't want, you are trespassing my property, just leave. They will not do that.
Okay, so as a Black person or anybody, I don't want to get shot. This is not a time for me to die here. This is not for me time to argue probably at this door, right? This is where I get handcuffed. I go into the police car. They take me down to wherever, and then I call Judge Barber or Marylin. That's what happens, or what can we do as civilians?
Well, you're saying to, I don't quite understand your question. I'm sorry, Judge Barber, before you answered, I didn't quite understand your question.
If a police officer comes to the door, and I open the door, and they want to take me, they don't have a warrant, but they want me out of the house for some reason, and I say no, and they stop the door from closing, and they pull me out without being shot, I guess I go with them, because this is not time to argue with them. This isn't the place, right? But can they do that? And even so, we don't know why they did it, but if you come up with a legit reason for why they saw me steal something and they know I live there, is it still that they can take me out of the car? I mean, out of the house?
Well, is it hot pursuit? Because we've
no
hot
pursuit.
Yeah, hot pursuit. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, the answer is yes, they can. Because they can. I mean, like you said, if somebody my size, somebody the size of everybody else in this car, you got two police officers, or just lift you up and put you in the car. So the answer is yes, they can. But is it right? Is it legal? I would say no. And but one of the, and you have not given consent. Just because they did it doesn't mean that you've given consent. So even though they did it, you still have not given consent. So you live to argue to say, hey, I never gave consent. What happens sometimes is because people are so afraid that at a certain point they give consent. It's like, well, maybe since I don't have anything to hide and I don't want to go to the police station, you just come in and look in there, see that I don't have any dead bodies in my basement, and then you could leave me alone. And that's when the issue is. And you could argue later on, if there were dead bodies in there, that your consent was not a valid consent. But yeah, so much goes into it. It's difficult to answer.
And yeah, she's right. A lot goes into it, and it's difficult to answer. But when you do have a situation, because I've had clients in as a criminal defense attorney where I start asking questions of the client, like, well, did you let him in? Did you let the police officer in? If you let the police officer in and you didn't have a problem with him searching your drawers for drugs, then that's consent,
Okay.
And they may have talked you into the consent, but it's consent, and they can argue that it was consent.
But Sandra Bland, she never gave consent.
No, she did. Well, that wasn't a
that wasn't a house. It was a car.
It was a car.
Yeah, but they said you remember, you're getting out of this car, and she's like, no, I'm not. And he pulled her out of that car.
He did. He did. And this is where I guess the whole conversation of police mistrust really resonates, because oftentimes the minority community, they don't have the same I guess trust of law enforcement as other people have in terms of their to serve and protect. We see it as a situation sometimes as something that's terrifying for us, because we don't know how this is going to end. And the other issue that we see over and over and over again is who, is the judge going to believe the police or are they going to believe me?
See, so we're right back at that judge issue. First of all, I don't want to get shot, so I'll comply. I won't give consent, but I'll comply. So I comply. I get in the car. I comply. I go down to the police station. I comply. I go to court, and the court is totally against me, and I've done nothing wrong.
Right, and that's why we go back to this discussion of being very, very careful as to who you vote for when it comes to the issue of who are your trial court judges, because you don't want people who are going to evaluate cases unfairly.
Can I say something? Can I say something? I actually, Dr. Dyer, I just wanted to say something about Dr. Dyer's response to his comments. So I was saved because of my wife. So the police were pulling me outside. My wife was upstairs. So my wife came running and she started crying. And then they saw a witness. They let me go. But they wanted my ID inside my own home. And I said, you have no rights to ask my ID inside my own home. It's illegal. And they said, and I asked them, why did you come inside? I asked you to leave. They said, I was escaping. I said, I'm escaping from my own home. That's exactly my sentence was there in my video. And we got that body camera video, which police department didn't want to release, but we got a subpoena to release that. So because of my wife, then my wife started crying. She was scared. And then I showed my ID and they will not give my ID back. Then I have to call a surgeon to get my ID back.
So,
oh my goodness.
Hold on, Mitchum. I think I've asked Marylin this before on one of our other shows of You Be the Judge. Does probable cause give them the complete net to cover things for a police officer to do the work? As civilians, we think they do, because because we don't know what they're thinking, but they could be thinking probable cause, suspicion, and this is why they're going forth with whatever they're doing.
Well, it depends on what. I mean, for instance, if you have probable cause that I stole, let's say, okay, what's a 60-inch TV or something like a 60-inch? Yeah. And you're looking in my drawers, you have no probable cause to be looking in my, kitchen cabinets, my medicine cabinet in the bathroom, or my desk drawers. You understand? Because that's not going to fit in there. So probable cause has to be reasonable as to what you look at.
That's where I tend to be sympathetic to people who are caught up in the system and things go the wrong way. Somebody has interpreted probable cause in a way that overpowers you and doesn't give you an opportunity to defend yourself, explain, so this is where the equal justice under the law is something where the law should be applied evenly.
But
if somebody told you no, somebody told you no.
I think one of the reasons why certain communities wanted police, body cams on the police officers so much is because when they told people from other communities their experience, the people from the other communities didn't believe them because they're like, well, my experience is that the police officer is here to protect and serve.
Right.
And so they're protecting and serving you the same way they would protect and serve me. But then when they see the videos, they're like, oh, okay, they wouldn't do that in my neighborhood, but I see what they're doing in your neighborhood because of the cameras. So.
Now that you brought that up, there was years ago, there was a case it's a published opinion, DeWitt Thomas versus Baltimore City Police, and one of I forgot one of the names of the police officers. Now, my client DeWitt Thomas was coming out of his mother's house on Monument Street, which is a a Baltimore City street. And there were some words exchanged, but the upshot is that the police officer made a fake arrest of my client, DeWitt Thomas. And he was thrown in the truck and sent to, then once he got there, they released him. So I brought an abusive process action on his behalf against Baltimore City Police. And the jury only ruled in my favor on the abusive process charge. I was able to convince them that, the two partners, concocted their little story of their version of events. And, they really didn't have a valid reason to put this person under arrest. Now, if they had nipped this in the bud and got these bad officers off the police force then, because that case happened in 1970 or 80 something. No, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I didn't start practicing law until 88. So this 1995, maybe the 1990s. Now let's fast forward to 2020. Do you know one of those officers made it up to the ranks to corporal and was part of that gun task force incident?
Mhm.
And he not only was he named, he was indicted. And he was indicted for planting evidence, which is very similar to what he was arrested, just fake testimony, that type of thing was part of the same scenario that happened in my client's case. And if the system was working and functioning in a proper way, he should have been long off the force. Long off the force. But no, they kept him and had him go through the ranks. He was corporal. And then, who knows how many other times he's done the same thing. But
and so we are probably facing a lot of chiefs, captains, lieutenants, sergeants, all those people who have been passed up through the ranks like this person, who have their feelings a certain way, who are going to do things a certain way, and now they're in leadership.
Right. And that's bad, very bad. When you have captains, when you have lieutenants that are in power positions, they know the system too well, and they know how to try to get past the system.
Yeah, and people have gotten what people have died as a result of that. I'm thinking about the exonerated 5, because the police officers went after those 5 young men, and they never actually looked to see that these young men had nothing to do with the incident of the
the Central Park 5 you're speaking of?
Yeah.
Well, now they're
Central
calling
Park 5.
them the exonerated 5.
But I remember that, and I remember Donald Trump took out a full-page ad saying they should be burned and all this other stuff.
Even after they were exonerated, he still
never apologized to my knowledge.
No, let that.
Yeah, but what happened in that case is the person who raped that woman ended up raping other women and actually killed one. Yeah, so had the police officers actually looked to see who committed the first crime and investigated it properly, they might have been able to get him right then and there, and that woman who died, her life might have been spared. Those women who got raped after that, they might have been spared that trauma.
I just remember growing up in New York, and my mother always, when I was really young, when they were kidnapping those black boys in Atlanta, and it was always, she was so frightened whether we're going to make it home or not by some issue or not with the police. Now, this is in the 70s, and it hasn't changed in 30 years. We're trying to heal the trauma, and we have perpetual trauma.
I think it's changed. I mean, look at what's happening now in reference to the Derek Chauvin trial. Could you imagine that back in the 80s? They would have said, what? Well, he was writing a bad check. Why is this? Yeah, I think it hasn't changed as quickly as I would hope, but it has changed somewhat. When these cases are happening now, they don't start out by saying, oh, so and so was doing this. Like, for instance, with why am I blanking out on his name? It's like Judge Trayvon Martin. Thank you. Yeah, when Trayvon, when what happened to Trayvon Martin happened to him, you heard, oh, he was living with his dad because he got kicked out of school because he was in possession of marijuana. So that's what we were hearing at that time period. Nowadays, we're more likely to hear, oh, okay, Officer Chauvin has been on the force for X amount of time, and he has had 17 complaints against him in that time. And in addition to that, look at what he was training the other 3 officers who were with him. 2 officers, yeah, who were with him, and and that was not proper procedure. So that's what you hear. So it's a little bit different. It's it's a little move towards in the direction that we're moving. It's not huge, but
I think that there is still large room for improvement. I don't
yes,
believe
I agree.
every officer has gotten it, that it you should not be unevenly arresting, unevenly applying the law and arresting people in an uneven manner. I don't think that has body cameras have been helpful, and they often are helpful. But there has got to be a clean house situation of bad cops. That's the only way you get to the root of the problem.
I think not just bad cops, but the whole system, because the system protects them. With an officer who has had 17 complaints against him, do you really put him back in that neighborhood? I mean, could you imagine if he worked for, let's say,
anything,
a private corporation? A private corporation would look at him and say, no, he
wouldn't have kept a Target job. If he had 17 complaints working at Target, he wouldn't have been fired. He wouldn't have been fired.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we not only have to get rid of the bad police officers, but also get rid of the system that protects them. Because
that's what the repeal of the LEOBR, Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights, discussion in the Maryland legislature right now. That's really what it's all about. Even in the repealing of that, it's gotten significant pushback from the Fraternal Order of Police. It's got significant pushback to try to gut it out, and make it look like you really aren't making major advances. But those types of things have to happen if you're going to get to the root of the problem. And yes, and you need to start with body cameras, and if they're not on, or if you don't have a system where you bought a body camera where it automatically comes on, then that's not helpful at all, unless you have serious disciplinary actions to follow for failing to turn off your body camera. I mean, I just saw some video footage of cops in, I'm not sure, I think it was, I don't know if it was, I don't remember if it's Florida or another state, where these cops were, this man was already handcuffed, and they were kicking him and slapping him around, the suspect around, and then one of the body cameras shifted quickly as they continued to punch him to another shot in the street, in a blank street, so that would not be covering the punching and the kicking that the cops were doing to this suspect. So, and then, all you hear is suspensions with pay. That's highly annoying to the community.
That is very disturbing to the community. I mean, even if we survive the punching and the kicking and all the nastiness, what really keeps us kicking and punching us in the gut is when they get suspended with pay. That just that really hurts a lot to everyone. They're like, how does that work? We know they're under investigation. We know they haven't been found guilty, and everyone deserves, your attorneys, everyone deserves to be heard and tried and to have their, but so I don't know a way around it. I don't know a way around it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there is, the legislature needs to deal with these police reform bills seriously, so that the community is not terrified, and that of cops that are going to abuse the system and get away with it.
Yeah.
We're coming up on our time for the show, but next week I want to honor our female attorney. So you two bring on your female friends, and Will, I'm the host, so you'll just have to watch online. But I want to honor, because this is Women's Month, and I want to talk about women in the legal system. So I want to be able to highlight that. So please bring all your sisters on, and we'll just talk about women in legal, law enforcement, and positiveness. We need to bring up and uplift you as much as we can, so we can say thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to You Be the Judge. We're here next week at 6:00. Anything you want to say, Marylin, before we take off?
Well, I'm just happy we had such a wonderful conversation, and I look forward to next week's conversation. Please join us again.
Thank you.
Ms. Marylin, I can ask one question. Do you think, is it possible, or do you think it's wise to have the video, show it to the team that I shared with you?
I'm sorry, do I think it's wise what?
And the video I showed you about that police assault, can we like offline or online to share with the team, just to
yes, that would be fine. Do you want to do it? Well, I guess we could stop recording and then we could talk about what's the
yes,
best
if
time.
that